That's the second priority for me. And why? Again, on basis of what have I decided? That I believe that these three are the these three thoughts have defined 20th century: Marx, Freud, and feminism in many ways. So, as educated person, you are supposed to know this. Yeah, Pooja. What I was saying was that suppose exams are declared sometime in near future, we have to complete that syllabus which is common to all the universities in India, right? And that would include Matthew Arnold, T.S. Eliot, Cambridge School of Criticism, which is not there in this textbook, right? So there won't be any exams on it because it's not there. It's not prescribed part of the syllabus. And fourth is new criticism. So 4 topics are left. So after we complete these 4 topics, we'll take up Marxism, Freudianism, and feminism. That's what I'm planning to take up. So that's the 7 topics I'm planning to complete. Let's see how it goes. So has everyone understood what I have said? So suppose you are planning to appear for certain entrance tests in some other universities, then you will have to know these 4 topics, right? Apart from whatever we have discussed. Anyone has a question?
Sir, could you please repeat those 4 topics that we are going to do again?
Matthew Arnold, T.S. Eliot, Cambridge Critics, which includes I.A. Richards, William Empson, and F.R. Lewis. Now we won't discuss that in detail because it's not part of your syllabus, but we will expect you to know something about it. So I'm going to discuss that, even if it's not part of your syllabus. And fourth is new criticism, the 4 topics.
All right, sir.
Right. So let's start with Matthew Arnold. And have you studied some poems by Matthew Arnold? Scholar Gypsy.
Yes.
Okay. But Matthew Arnold was even more influential as a critic. Though he was a well-known poet of his times, he was influential as a critic. And what is very interesting to us is that he also is one of the first professors of English poetry in Oxford University in 1857. A student of Oxford, but again, professor of poetry, 1857. And 1857 is an important date for India as well, as we know. Why is it important, 1857? Any ideas? (1857) is an important date for India.
Sir, maybe revolution?
The revolt, right? The mutiny, Sepoy mutiny against the British, 1857, not 18, yeah. And that even more important for us today is the fact that 4 universities were established for the first time in India by the British. 1 in Bombay, 1 in Delhi, 1 in Chennai, that is Madras, and 4th was Kolkata. So 4 important universities were established, and the first set of graduates started appearing from that university. And many of these graduates went on to become important reformers, nationalist thinkers, leaders of all kinds, right? So university education is established in India in 1857. Now, what is important again for student of English literary criticism and its history is that criticism seems to come together with pedagogy and education. There is Matthew Arnold is bringing in what is the use of literature and criticism in an academic school and educational setup. What can be the function of criticism in society? What is the function of literature in society? And what is the function of literature and society in education? Right? These are some of the most important questions that are being raised. So pedagogy and education becomes important part of thinking about literature and culture. Right? So that is one very important point that we have to keep in mind. And for okay, I will bring page 521. 521. He was after he finished his studies, he was an inspector, school inspector, and he looked at the quality of education, and so education is never far from his mind. As somebody who is a kind of person who is officially appointed to improve the quality of education, right? So a critic and educationalist and a writer, creative writer, come together in the figure of Matthew Arnold. And his some of the most important books are Essays in Criticism, 1865, Culture and Anarchy, a very famous book, 1869, and then Literature and Dogma, 1873, and his famous poem Dover Beach, I don't know if you're familiar with it, talks about how it expresses his despair. It's a voice talking to his beloved, and he talks about human world as wandering between two worlds, one dead and other powerless to be born. So he sees himself as being part of in-between state, where old world is dead and new world is cannot be born. It's powerless to be born. Right? That's one of the famous lines from Dover Beach. And one of the crisis, central crisis, the reason old world is dead is because of science and technology, industrial revolution, and the rise of new middle class. So it's during the height of industrial revolution that Matthew Arnold looked at the middle class of England of his time, to which he himself belongs, as an educationist, as a critic, and as a poet. And he tries to figure out what can be the function of literature or teaching literature, right? Or studying literature in a kind of post-industrial society, or society which is in the time of high industrialism. And this is also the society where science is displacing religion in a big way for the middle class. So religion and theology is getting displaced. So what is then the function of literature and teaching and studying literature is to establish something in the place of religion, right? So art, literature, and something what he calls culture, a term that he is one of the most important person to formulate the meaning of the word culture. The word culture all of a sudden becomes a very important idea in English literary criticism with Matthew Arnold, and that's why he's called first cultural critic. And the word culture, as you may be aware of, is also connected with growing plants or growing animal cells or plant cells in a laboratory. उसे भी culture कहते हैं, right? And it is connected to agriculture. So agriculture involves tending the fields, nourishing the plants and harvesting them, right? So, and culture is also about nourishing oneself, right? In absence of religion, in terms of ethics, aesthetics, philosophy, and so on and so forth. That is a very important part of culture. So he is one of the first important culture critic. Can you hear me, others, clearly? Jelta is unable to. Okay.
Yes, sir, we can.
Yeah. So his book is titled Culture and Anarchy, right? For him, one of the most difficult thing to confront is the new middle class produced by industrial capitalism. He is deeply utilitarian, pragmatist, rationalist, which values science over inner development, which values material growth and progress over internal spiritual growth. That is for him one of the most troubling part of his society and culture. And he uses the term Philistines from Bible to describe those people from his class, that is the middle class, who don't care for internal spiritual development of man. They are only concerned with material progress, money, and utilitarian pragmatism. And that is one of the most problematic things. And this is where he feels that literature and culture can play a role in education. So literature and culture can play a role in developing inner spiritual self in absence of religion, right? The ethical, aesthetic, and philosophical side of man can develop in absence of uh, religion. And this explanation that he has given for including literature in academics, university and college. If you remember, before 1857, they did not teach Shakespeare or Chaucer in universities. It was classical scholarship, which was Greek and Latin learning, right? So English canon was not taught in the colleges like Oxford and Cambridge. So he is providing a kind of rationale for inclusion. Yes, very much. Aristotelian in the sense of liberal arts, right? So Matthew Arnold is a new liberal, right? When Aristotle is talking about liberalism or liberal arts, he is not talking of middle class. Aristotle is talking about the elite Greeks, right? Who have this right to vote in the polis. But this is for the middle class of England and also the working class. And for him, this justification for inclusion of teaching literature is that it induces humanistic, spiritual, interior, ethical, philosophical development of man, which is overlooked by the Philistine bourgeoisie, right? Which are only interested in materialistic culture. So what do you have to say about this idea? Do you think it resonates with you, or do you feel that the class to which you belong uh, has is so materialistic that it does not develop internally? Replacement of religion, Jaldi, religious spirituality, because scientific spirit has displaced it as a social value. Moving away from religion, गॉड का तो पता नहीं मुझे, मैं गॉड को पहचानता भी नहीं, मैं रिलीजन को पहचानता और उसके खास नजदीक जाने में मुझे इच्छा भी नहीं है. Okay, but the question that he poses is that the culture is getting more, the society is getting more and more philistinical and hence anarchic, and culture is a solution to this problem. Is one of the key ideas that he promotes. And you can see this is for the first time such ideas are being floated, right? Okay. You think it's still valid? Justification for humanities. And you know, even today when government sponsors colleges and education gives uh, uh, subsidies, it still uses these ideas that education is meant for internal holistic growth of man. If you look at new educational policy of 2020, वह वो भी अभी तक यही ह्यूमनिस्टिक आर्नोल्डियन आर्ग्यूमेंट ही यूज कर रही है. 20th सेंचुरी में 1960 के बाद इसी आइडिया पे लोगों ने अटैक किया था, आइडिया ऑफ कल्चर को. But in the world, we are still using this idea as a justification for teaching literature and arts in schools and colleges. Right? So on page, yeah. Go ahead.
So you said culture is the solution of it, but like in what sense? How would you define the word culture here?
We will look at, yes, he defines
Oh.
it. If you look at page number, page number 523, last paragraph. In Culture and Anarchy, Arnold redefines culture, right? And need for it in modern industrial society devoted to mechanism and profit. He calls culture a study of perfection. It moves by the force, not merely or primarily of the scientific passion for pure knowledge, but also of the moral and social passion for doing good. It has ethical and intellectual component. Right? And if you look at the last lines of page 523, the aims of culture, according to Arnold, are identical with those of religion, which Arnold calls the greatest and most important of the efforts by which human race has manifested to impulse to perfect itself. Right? Page 524. Religion, that voice of the deepest human experience. What they have common, they यानी religion और culture में क्या common है? Is cultivation of inwardness. Religion preaches that the kingdom of God is within you, and culture places human perfection in its internal condition, in the growth and predominance of our humanity proper, as distinguished from its animality. Culture expands our gifts of thought and feeling, fosters growth. So there are parallels between religion and culture, right? Religion fostered perfect need, impulse to perfect oneself ethically, right, as well, and intellectually. Similarly, culture also is the impulse to perfect ourselves ethically and intellectually. Religion promoted this inwardness, right? That is the idea that kingdom of God is within you. While culture places human perfection in an internal condition, in the growth and predominance of humanity proper, as distinguished from our animality. That's the definition and function of culture. But what has happened is religion is being displaced because of scientific and rationalist and the pragmaticist and utilitarian culture of bourgeoisie or the industrialized middle class. So something has to come in, which is to foster people's inward growth, ethical growth, intellectual growth, and spiritual growth. On the page 524, first paragraph, last few lines. Culture represents for Arnold an internal condition of the mind and not the outward circumstances. He regards its function as especially for our crucial for our modern civilization, which is mechanical and external, as well as strongly individualistic, specialized, and inflexible. Because the rising values, the emergent powerful values which people seem to be following is the faith in machinery, accumulation of wealth as an end in itself. Page 24. Such kind of values are produced by, he calls them disparagingly as Philistines, right? Who are devoted to pursuit of wealth. Page 524. In uniting beauty and intelligence, culture affects a harmony of sweetness and light. Terms taken from Jonathan Swift's Battle of Books. So culture unites sweetness and light, beauty and truth, beauty and intelligence. And culture fosters these two ideals. And in that it shares the same spirit as poetry. So that is the function of literature, right? Any questions about that? What do he means by culture and function of religion? I'm sorry, function of literature in educational, a kind of validation or justification for inclusion of humanities in growing STEM world. STEM is science, technology, is what? Engineering and management. ये चार जो lines है, these four lines represent the values of the Indian middle class today. Yeah, they are synonymous in the sense that literature fosters culture by promoting sweetness and light, beauty and intelligence. It promotes ethics. So in a way, it parallels religion, Titiksha. So this is the liberal humanist justification for teaching literature in academia. Is that clear? And it emerges in 1860s with Matthew Arnold as formulating them for the first time. It is not a way of discarding religion, jaldi. It is more of trying to salvage something from religion. Religion is being discarded by the middle class society, not by Arnold. He would not have favored that. But now that it has happened, it has to be replaced. That vacant space has resulted in a kind of emptiness, right? तो religion की जगह क्या लेगा? तो culture और arts लेगी. Not plan B. It is a replacement or a substitute. Yeah. In order to counter anarchy and Philistinism. On page number 525, he says that literature has ability to civilize and cultivate morality. Page 525, second paragraph. Right, and the status of religion has been increasingly threatened by science. And remember, 1859 में Darwin origin of species आता है. Remember that as one of the massive blows. And when Arnold says that culture separates us from animals, right? On page number 524, fifth line. That has probably something to do with Darwin telling you that man is also an animal. So culture is used to in some way prop up the status of man. That's why he's defined as humanist, liberal humanist, right? And in a very famous definition, very, very famous, is he defines poetry as criticism of life. Page number 525. Right? Criticism not in the sense of finding faults, but as a kind of interpretation, in making sense of life. उस sense में लिया है उसने. Poetry and literature helps us to make sense of the world in which we are living. That is what he's saying. Poetry as criticism of life. Poetry's high function is to actually replace religion and philosophy. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Amira can't hear me. Nitiksha and Saloni can hear me. Asma can also hear me. Okay. So I think, Amira, you need to look into your audio or your connectivity, because connectivity can be an issue. Is that much clear? Function of poetry? High function is to replace religion and philosophy. Very. So he gives huge amount of importance to poetry in modern life, or literature in modern life. It civilizes, it produces culture, right? It has this humanizing impact on human life. ऐसा उसका explanation है. So if poetry has this huge function and value in modern life, industrialized middle class life, then we should be able to distinguish between good literature and bad literature, right? Something which is the job of literary criticism, right? We have to define what is good literature and a classic. Why does he separate culture from science? Jai, culture's function is to provide aesthetic, moral, and philosophical and ethical development of man, according to Arnold. Science, job of science is to find out truth about the world in which we are living. They have different function. So this kind of bifurcation between culture and science is also a characteristic of modern industrialized capitalist society. And that's the reason why you are studying arts here. Literature is studied under arts. It's not job of science to promote ethics. It's not job of science to promote aesthetics. That they may, scientific knowledge may give you aesthetic pleasure. For example, the photograph of Mars may give you pleasure, right? Aesthetic pleasure, but that's not the primary function of science.
Yes, sir, understood.
Yeah. While the job of culture is to give you, to contribute to your ethical, aesthetic, philosophical, and intellectual inward growth rather than materialistic growth. So it's about holistic personality development. And that is what even national education policy, which came how many years after his death? How many years after this book? 35, 135, 155 years after Arnold's books. 155 साल बाद भी हम वही बात कर रहे हैं. But these premises and these assumptions of Matthew Arnold came into a kind of powerful interrogation after 1960s, leading to something called culture studies. So culture studies emerges after 60s, 1960s, which is a criticism of negation of, critique of Matthew Arnold's ideas of culture. Yeah. Okay. So if this is the high demand made on literature, you should be able to decide upon what is good literature and bad literature. And this is precisely where criticism comes in. And he goes on to define criticism in a very important essay, 521, page 521. पीछे चले जाओ. Last paragraph, the function of criticism. Can you find this? And in contrast to Oscar Wilde, in contrast to Baudelaire, right, he's saying critical faculty is lower than the inventive or creative. And creative power is the highest function of man. And work of literary genius is not like that of philosopher. So the task of criticism, last few lines, is to establish an order of ideas to make the best ideas prevail. You have to, if the function of literature is to promote internal spiritual, aesthetic, intellectual growth, then only the best things have to be prioritized. They have those ideas which are the most useful for this purpose are to be prioritized. And that is what he means by establish an order of ideas to make best ideas prevail. That is very important aspect of criticism. On page 522, next page, he actually says something which does not sit well with his idea of art. And he says that the positivist historical tendency and scientific attitude which rejects metaphysics has to be adopted by literary criticism. Even though this trend of positivism was one symptom of mechanization and externalization, he lamented. So criticism should be more and more scientific. Right. And on the last paragraph of page 522, he insists upon literary criticism to be disinterestedness. That is one of the core values of literary criticism. And what does he mean by disinterestedness? Is to keep aloof from the practical view of things by following the law of its own nature, which is to be the free play of mind on all the subject which it touches, literature. By steadily refusing to lend itself to any of those, page 522, last paragraph. Very much Kant, Titiksha. And that's why we spend so much time over Kant, right? क्योंकि ये लोग सब लोग कोई ना कोई तौर तरीके से कांट पे घूम फिर के आती है. By steadily refusing to lend itself to any of those ulterior political, practical consideration of these ideas. Page 523. Criticism must lead man towards perfection. 523, first paragraph. By making his mind dwell upon what is excellent in itself, the absolute beauty and fitness of things. Criticism should embrace Indian virtue of detachment. The Hindu ideal of ascetic renunciation of all worldly concerns. What do you make of this? He does not like the rationalist, utilitarian, pragmaticist values of middle class. But then he goes on to, when it comes to criticism, he seems to be promoting that kind of attitude. But he is giving a kind of different spin to disinterestedness of Kant, not moksha. Sannyasi would be closer. Moksha is ultimate liberation. And it is not liberation or salvation in Christian sense of the word. Christian sense of the word salvation is to save your soul from going to hell. डैमनेशन से बचना, आत्मा को बचा के स्वर्ग में ले जाना, ये क्रिश्चियन आइडिया है. मोक्ष मीन्स यू गेट आउट ऑफ दिस साइकिल ऑफ बर्थ एंड रिबर्थ और वॉन्डरिंग. एंड संस्कृत वर्ड फॉर वॉन्डरिंग इज संसार, यानी भटकना यहाँ वहां, एक जन्म से दूसरे जन्म में भटकना. तो उसमें से बाहर निकलना उसे मोक्ष कहते हैं. सो नॉट मोक्ष. Moksha is the ultimate purpose of life, right? There are 4 purposes in the Vedic thought: dharma, arth, kam, and moksha. What he is talking about is renunciation, sannyas. मेरे पास से आप लोग बापू का भी काम करवा ले रहे हो. दाढ़ी रख रहा हूँ इसलिए बाबा का काम करवा ले रहे हो आप. क्या करें? Matthew Arnold has dragged this thing in, so okay. So let's get back to Matthew Arnold for a change, and what he seems to be saying that criticism should prioritize what is good, bad for the society, and only promote that literature which promotes these best ideas, right? And you can see very importantly that all this is in the context of pedagogy and education. Why should you teach Shakespeare in universities of Oxford? Is that they provide kind of internal growth to man, of man, in terms of aesthetics, moral education आता है, religious education आता है, aesthetic education आता है, और ethical आता है. That's why you should teach literature in Oxford University. So justification of literature in society has a deep connection with education that he was involved with. And while selecting which books are the best, right, you should not be biased towards a particular political or practical considerations. That is what he means here. So it's not exactly the same as Kant. There is some difference in what he is trying to say, right? He is also very critical of British Constitution, which has been derived from French Revolution ideals. For him, this kind of ideologies are the bourgeois ideologies of progress, are a colossal machine for manufacture of Philistines, page 523. Okay, so you can see his politics, right? How conservative his politics are. As we have been saying, either you are for French Revolution or against French Revolution, right? And Matthew Arnold seemed to be on the side of against French Revolution, like Coleridge, like Wordsworth, but then also like Baudelaire, and also like Oscar Wilde, against French Revolution, because it's a bourgeois phenomena. Okay. So the job of the critic, right, is to recognize, page 523, best that is known and thought. And that will come from outside of England. And that is a very important idea in Matthew Arnold, that which texts and which ideas are to be taught. Then these ideas, the best will come from outside England. Why? Because England is such a big machinery for producing Philistinism. So it will come from classics. It will come from Europe. right? And on page 525, he says on third paragraph, right, that this European and things which are outside of England have to be brought in English education system and in criticism, because criticism has a role to play in education, right? And he coins a term called touchstone method. This is very popular, page 525, last paragraph. What is a touchstone? Anyone knows? What is a touchstone? सो गए क्या लोग?
No, sir. A stone that can be touched.
What is touchstone?
Something
Stone
of
that
a
can-
metal tester.
Metal tester, but it also tests for gold. The goldsmith uses that to make out how much purity or how pure is that gold, right? So job of a critic is that of a touchstone, to figure out what is good and bad in literature. And how will you decide what is good and bad if you are a goldsmith? Then you will use the touchstone. And what is this touchstone for Matthew Arnold? These are the lines or passages from Shakespeare, Chaucer, Milton, Virgil, Dante, and who else? And Homer, obviously. So from classics as well as Desi canon, right? So canon is being English canon is being constructed by using a comparative method, right? Which employs passages from literary text from Greek and Latin as well, to distinguish between what is gold in contemporary English literature and what is fake or impurity in English literature. It does seem so. Classicism जैसा तो लग रहा है Titisha, but it's not imitation in Pope and Dryden's sense. It's more like these are the benchmarks, right? So he is a neoclassicist of kind in criticism. So best things are these passages. Yes, benchmarks, markers of excellence. And they come from Milton, Dryden, Totna nahi, and Shakespeare, Marlowe, and Dante, Virgil, Homer, Horace. So it's a comparative method because it draws upon multiple cultural traditions, right, to determine what is good and bad in English literature. Great work is one that exhibits truth and seriousness. That these are the core values of great work. And Arnold also is not advocating any historical study or formal study of the text. Page 525, last paragraph. So you can see the relation between canonization or formation of an English canon in a pedagogical setup, right? So even if students love Chetan Bhagat, they will be forced to read Charles Dickens, right? Or Thackeray, or novels that you find boring, poems that are boring. So as against popular taste, he's trying to set a kind of classics. That is how he defines classics. Classics are those which embody those values that you find in great texts all over the world, which are determined by the critic who uses this touchstone. Right. So English canon is now entering the university setup. And interestingly, it was tried out on Indians first and on English people later, because people thought, "Arey, Milton, Shakespeare padhaoge, so how will people respond in England?" Because till then you were taught Greek and Latin classics. So teaching desi authors like Shakespeare se kya hoga, right? It's like आपके क्लास में अगर मैं गुजराती पोइट्री डिस्कस करूं तो आपको लगेगा ये क्या देसी स्टफ चालू हो गया। वैसे ही इंग्लिश लिटरेचर पढ़ाना शुरू करते ऑक्सफोर्ड और कैम्ब्रिज में तो वो देसी होता, बिकॉज दैट इज द वर्नाक्युलर, राइट। आई होप यू गेट द पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ इट। देसी यानी बहुत नीचे के दर्जे का। हाई क्लासिकल क्या था, तो ग्रीक एंड लैटिन लिटरेचर। तो इंग्लिश लिटरेचर देसी लिटरेचर था उस टाइम का। और इसी वजह से तो आपने इंग्लिश लिया ना, क्योंकि इंग्लिश इंडिया में इट्स एन एलीट लैंग्वेज। दैट्स व्हाई ऑल ऑफ यू हैव सिलेक्टेड इंग्लिश, because it gives you an access to be part of the elite group in society, which is considered culturally superior to people who don't know English. है ना? So what is interesting is that English is seen as elite language in India, but English was seen as a vernacular language in England. I hope you get the point. वहां पे elite language कौन सी थी? Greek, Latin, French maybe. So what is vernacular and what is elite is contextual. English in India is elite, but English in the West is vernacular. Right? So German in India would be an elite language. French is an elite language, but French would be desi or vernacular in France. So he is making a case for desi literature in a setup, English setup, which treats Greek and Latin as high culture. I hope you get the politics of it. Any questions about Matthew Arnold? Golo. Yeah, go ahead. Sanskrit is becoming an elite language in Germany, पता नहीं, मुझे chances नहीं लगते। और उसका पॉलिटिक्स थोड़ा अलग है जय, because Sanskrit was considered language of Aryans and Germans thought that they are Aryans. It doesn't mean they would be nice to us. Okay, Jalta is asking, can we say that in the way he wants literature to be taught as part of education and then gives his own idea of definition of literature, and he's saying the same to be taught? Yes. Okay, so basically he is using literature to civilize and culture the Philistines, that is the middle class of England, industrialized middle class, which is heavily materialistic, outward looking, and utilitarian, pragmatists. who love science, right, and where religion is being sidelined. In this situation, he is promoting literature as a process of culturizing that class, so as to avoid anarchy. So culture is a category that becomes prominent because of Arnold as humanizing, spiritualizing function that once religion had. But Marxist critics have pointed out that this is what he is doing in order to maintain the elite status of the bourgeoisie as against the working class British, right? So working class, he was extremely dismissive and also disliked the working class, which he saw as being inferior. So Marxist critics have great problem with Arnold. And they also point out he's appropriating kind of aristocratic values of aesthetic education for establishing one's superiority over the working class. Okay, kuch कहना है? Anything else?
Sir, I had one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Like there are two questions primarily. The first one being that when you say that Arnold becomes a novel figure when he introduces these ideas in context of pedagogy and education, and he talks about literature and being taught for this notion of culture, and especially primarily this moralistic and spiritual development. So why was literature, which was essentially classical, being taught before he formulates his ideas, or was it being taught at all? Because you said that like the universities, or did we have universities before them? And
university started, if you remember, 5th semester.
Yes, yes.
तो 12वीं सदी से ऑक्सफोर्ड और कैम्ब्रिज शुरू होते हैं, and most of the
Yes.
time their job was to create teachers for convents, right, and priests. So the religion the syllabus that was taught in medieval times was largely classical, right, in Greek and Latin. Slowly, by the time you reach Renaissance, a new class enters the university system, right? And now printing has been introduced, and this new class is the new middle class. So I'm just revising what we have done, but the education is still classical, right? Oh. And there is a group of those scholars called humanists who say that we should go back to original Aristotle in Greek instead of reading Arabic translations and translations of Ibn Rushd that the scholastics were doing. So these new humanists, right, are students of classical literature. They are not studying Shakespeare yet.
Yes.
Right. So by the time you come to Arnold, you find that English studies has emerged in universities, and he is trying to provide an academic rationale for why English literature should be taught in Britain, the vernacular literature.
Yes. So this idea of studying English literature solely from this curiosity-driven and research-oriented outlook is sidelined or not even brought up, right? So because Arnold is primarily focusing or solely focusing on this moralistic and individual development. So studying literature for understanding how languages are like the things we do in linguistics, or like understanding it from a
because linguistics, I get your question. Linguistics is a later development after Saussure, 20th century में, and theory भी जो आती है ना वो largely 60s में आना शुरू होता है. philology was there, and philological study of literature was there. That means you study literature as part of study of history of language. Like say for example, how was English used in 17th century? अगर आपको जानना है तो आप 17th century literary text पढ़ते हो. So philology, which is study of historical study of language, which was based on text, right, was part of 19th century academics. But it is still not what you call theory. वो बाद में आता है.
Okay.
वो रशियन फॉर्मेलिज्म से शुरुआत होती है, न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म से शुरुआत होती है, आर्केटाइपल क्रिटिसिज्म से शुरुआत होती है in the 50s and 60s. So first book of theory is called The Theory of Literature, written by René Wellek and Austin Warren in, I think, what, 1949 or 59, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So what you call theory, and feminism तो उससे भी बाद में आता है. As literary criticism की practice बहुत बाद में आता है.
Okay, all right. So this idea of that we through literature we understand society at large or like human.
आज जैसे हम देखते हैं वही ना.
Yes.
वो बाद की डेवलपमेंट है.
Okay, so they are not reading, like if they want to understand what the symbolists had to say about literature or what the Renaissance artists had to say, they are not doing that.
At least Matthew Arnold नहीं कर रहा है वो.
Okay.
And interestingly, one of the earliest powerful, influential history was written in French by Hippolyte Taine. So he introduces historical study of English literature in a very influential way in France.
Okay. All right, sir.
Samuel Johnson भी history लिखता है, जैसे Lives of English Poets is a very famous book.
Yes.
That is not in a pedagogical, theoretical context as we understand it today. So in the 60s, 1960s, there is a critique of Matthew Arnold and his followers,
Yes.
and the idea of culture, and that is the beginning of contemporary culture studies in what is known as Birmingham School, started by people like Raymond Williams, who are Marxists. So Raymond Williams attacks Matthew Arnold के followers,
Yes.
and culture studies is established.
Okay. But sir, these people are like the figures we have studied are simultaneously reading other critics and those who are formulating and understanding literature in their own ways. But when it comes to introducing it and okay, that is driven by context. Yeah.
And pedagogy and research, pedagogy और educational research जो है ना, वो अभी वो सवाल खड़ा इसलिए नहीं होता क्योंकि ये पहले तो इसको ही जस्टिफाई करना पड़ता है कि शेक्सपियर पढ़ाना है तो उसको कुछ जस्टिफिकेशन देना पड़ेगा ना. रिसर्च तो बाद में होगा. पहले किड्स पढ़ाना है तो you have to justify why you are teaching kids to our children, right? So this is what he's first creating, so that you can then have research on that.
Yeah.
So this is an early phase of establishment of English studies.
Yes.
And early कहते हो मगर है तो 1860s की बात ना. It's not so early as well.
Yes, sir.
Jelta is asking, do we have class tomorrow? क्या आंसर दूं मैं उसको? What answer should I give to Jelta? Tell me.
So the question changes to, do you want to take a class tomorrow?
I am asking you.
Because on your class, our other class also depends.
You have other classes tomorrow?
No,
So Madhurita ma'am has told us that if we have other lectures, then she'll also take a lecture, and she won't bother
See,
us
I
for
don't
just
mind
one
having a
lecture, of
I
course.
don't mind having a class with you. But आपको क्या करना है? रामनवमी में पढ़ना है या भजन करना है राम का?
So we can have one lecture, if not two.
Yes, we can have one lecture,
चलेगा.
not two.
एक लेक्चर करते हैं. कौन सा?
And can we
In the
have it at
morning.
10?
Yes,
10?
sir.
10
Yes,
to
sir.
11?
Yes.
10
Okay,
is fine.
Yes.
it's fine for me. 10 to 11 tomorrow. Yeah,
All right, sir. Thank you.
yeah. Anything you have to say about Arnold that we discussed today? Okay, so if not, then we'll start T.S. Eliot tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so you've got what I'm doing, right? How I'm going to proceed. Next topic is T.S. Eliot, फिर Cambridge और New Criticism. ये पहले तीन हम discuss करेंगे. Thursday, Friday, Saturday को आपका, I think you have said that you are free from 10 to 12:30, right?
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
Yes, sir. We are free.
You have what?
We don't have any class, sir.
So we are free.
I will inform you about our schedule on Thursday, Friday, Saturday later. कल 10 बजे मिलते हैं. Right? Why are you silent? थक गए हो क्या?
Yes, sir. On some days, 2 lectures feel like a lot.
Yes. Okay, and get vaccinated after 1st May, all of you.
So we'll give exams first and then get vaccinated.
Exams का तो भगवान ही जाने कब है.
Beach में if we have
I have become great believer in God, and if God did not exist, we'll have to invent him, said Voltaire, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Mark Twain, I don't know. So we need to invent God, especially in these times. Maybe he can help us with exams. Looking forward to what? Vaccination, okay. Okay, and take care because this is getting out of hand. This is too explosive situation. There are so many people I have heard that they are down with COVID. Okay, so please take care and we'll meet tomorrow. हाँ, जय ने तो वैक्सीन भी ले ली. वेरी गुड, वेरी. फर्जी आधार कार्ड बनाया क्या जय तूने?
नो सर, वो यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट का है तो हो गया था.
अच्छा. ओके, तन्वी ने तो बताया मुझे. ओके. And did you have any symptoms after that, Jay, after vaccine?
Yes, sir, I felt some weakness and I had fever for some time during the night. But after that, after 1 or 2 days, it became.
All can be managed by, I think, Prosin.
Yes,
है
sir.
ना? चलो, see you tomorrow.